Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to part 1 of the actual campaign Reach for the Stars in Kerbal Space Program, Realism Overhaul, Real Solar System, RP0, Korea. Okay, so now I'm going to show, for anybody who hasn't actually attempted to play Realism Overhaul because it seems to be a little bit too daunting for them, I'm going to try and sort of explain how to put together a very basic sounding rocket. This is the only time I'm going to actually show the construction phase unless something really sort of interesting crops up. I will be showing the spacecraft building phase, which is basically the payload, but not the actual launchers themselves. The only time I'll be showing the launcher construction is if I'm developing a new launcher with new engines, tanks, things like that. That's the only time. Once I've got a family of launchers, I won't be showing that build phase. Won't be a need to anyway, because it'll be in part of the sub-construct sort of section, which I'll show you in the VAB. Yeah, but this particular mission, the first sounding rocket mission, I'm going to show you how to actually put together the basic rocket. So it's just for people who might be a little bit intimidated, don't exactly know what to do, how to actually do it, what all the numbers mean. Okay, I want to go into this mission control and select the first contracts. Yep, hello Jane, again. So we've got the first launch. So all we have to do is get 2,000 advance. I've started with no money, no science, and 0 reputation. So get 2,000 advance, plus once we've completed this, 1,000 credits as well. So that's 3,000 altogether. Shut up, G. Anyway, put me right off. So start your new space program. For your first mission, you should launch your first vessel. Just design and build a vessel, roll it out to the pad or runway if it's an aeroplane. I'm English, so I say aeroplane. And stage to take off. Note all the records to break in the active contract, which I already looked at before in the previous videos. They update, so keep checking. So yeah, these sections here. So that's 350 uncrewed speed record, meters per second, 10 kilometer altitude record. Obviously we can't do any crewed missions because we don't have any crewed parts. Well, we do have aircraft though, but I don't think we're going to get to 10 kilometers in a biplane or a propeller aircraft. Though we have got some very early jets. So basically what we have to do with this one is launch a new vessel. There's no time expiry, there's no time limit on this, so we can do it whenever we want to. Destination is Earth, which is obvious, we can't leave Earth. Situation is flying. Rate of climb, so you've got to be climbing greater than 1 meter, so that's vertical velocity, has to be more than 1 meter per second. That's pretty easy. An aeroplane, even a kite, could probably beat that. As in, if you get it vertically going upwards. Okay, so I think we'll accept that one. So now we have 2,000 credits in the bank. Still no signs though. We don't get any signs back from that either. So there's no reputation points and no signs to get. It's just 3,000 if we manage to get it off the ground, which it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so you've got sounding rocket. This is the first sounding rocket. What's your first sounding rocket to the upper atmosphere? So you've got to get to 120 kilometers, 120,000 meters in altitude. We get a 254,840 credit advance once we click the tick. And that's it. We don't get anything for completing it. This is just giving you, if you start off with nothing like I have, this just gives you a bit of a cushion to develop your next version of your sounding rockets. He's turning the music off again, never mind. And we get 3 science points on completion and 8 reputation. If we fail, we get the money taken off us again. So if we've spent some of this, we could very well go into, let's say we spend 100,000 of this, with 100,000 in debt. There's no time limit at all. So I'm going to just read the description. So a sounding rocket, sometimes called a research rocket, is an instrument carrying rocket designed to take measurements. He's interrupting me again. Measurements and perform scientific experiments during its flight. This early in our space program, we are still trying to see how far and how high we can launch rockets. I'm going to say rockets any more time in the same sort of sentence, but never mind. So significance, these are the first launch of rockets that would help us to refine our rocketry techniques to go higher, faster and further. So these are actually back in the 1930s. Technically, this is part of the A program in Germany and elsewhere. Very early rocketry, 1930s. But we start in 1951. So we start with 1950s tech, such as the Aero B sounding rocket engine and its components. Okay, so I want to go ahead and accept that. So I get a huge boost of 256,840 credit. Can't do anything else. I have no idea why field research keeps disappearing. Okay, so we've got no time limit on that, and we've got no time limit on this one either. I said back out to the Space Center view. Okay, so now we need to go into the VAB and put this rocket together. As I said, I'm going to show you basically the basic way of actually putting one of these things together, just for people who are a little bit daunted, like I said. A little bit daunting to try and Realism Overhaul, you're a little bit unsure what anything means. So I'm going to just explain very briefly how to actually sort of work out your first launcher. So let's go into the VAB. Okay, so you are in the VAB. Now, as I said just a moment ago, I'll just show this build sequence just fine. I'll just explain some parts to people who may not actually know what Realism Overhaul is, or you may want to play it and it's a bit daunting for you, like I said. So the biggest thing, the biggest difference you'll first notice is probably real fills. This is before anything else. So I'll just pick on this part. So as you can see, we've got liquid oxygen, lax insulation, kerosene liquid basic insulation, NTO, helium mesh. So basically, each of these tanks now will hold real world fuels. Somewhat close to, or as close as you can expect, within the limitations of the game itself, real actual mass fractions. And consequently, the engines and the engine tab also use real world fuels. A lot of this information is actually fully available on the internet. This is obviously, as I said, RD100 and the R&D build actually showed you this. It's basically a one-to-one copy of the A4, which powered the V2 ballistic missile. So this is basically what historically, at least, in our reality, is a Russian liquid propellant rocket. So it's the first engine that they actually developed for sort of large scale use. In other words, building a lot of them. So we have, this is the actual basic engine. I've not actually altered the V2 engine. I said I was going to, but to be honest, I'd just start with the RD100. But by the time we actually get to that stage in the career, we'll have other engines available anyway. So we don't really have to sort of bother using any of these, but I'll just show you really quickly. Maximum thrust is 311.8 kilonewtons in a vacuum. At sea level it's 264.834 kilonewtons. Now the ISP is far too high. From what I can gather, this engine is far higher performance than it was actually historically. So 203 at sea level and 239 in a vacuum. That is very high. I mean, the V2, like I said, in the R&D building only just managed to cross the Kármán line when it's launched vertically. Whereas this has a massive overpowered level. It's hugely overpowered. Vectoring range 3 degrees. Okay, so now we have this is the test flight. This is a plugin for Realism Overhaul. And basically what test flight does is it improves the reliability of an engine by spending cash. This stuff down here. So, yeah. If I show you test flight's actual window. If I can actually remember where test flight's window actually is. Come on, where is it? Oh, of course. Sorry. So you have to pick an engine. R&D A4. So you click on the engine and you can switch to the A9. So straight away we can actually switch to the A9, which would give us an even more increase. 288.68 kilonewtons. Doesn't actually say well, it's actually at sea level, so obviously it doesn't change between sea level. Some engines gain power as they get higher, as they gain altitude. And others are more powerful on the pad than they are in the actual, as the higher they go. SRBs, for instance, will actually lose power as they get higher. So it's 220 ISP and 255 ISP. So the first figure is at sea level. The second figure will be at that's altitude or in a vacuum. So right now it's the straight A4. It's 311.8 kilonewtons in the vacuum, 264.834 kilonewtons at sea level. Only 203 at sea level ISP and 239 in the vacuum. So you see it becomes a little bit more efficient, but it doesn't actually gain power. It's one straight figure, 288.68. If I switch to there, right, so that is in a vacuum, so obviously that config must be missing. Yeah, that information is missing from that one as well, the older version. So the at sea level thrust is actually missing in this page. Most engines aren't like that. Most engines do actually have both ASL and vacuum thrust levels as well as their ISP. So that is basically how you set up different sort of engines for different fuel. Now if you have multiple configs for fuel within the same engine version, so let's say the A9, let's say it has two different configs for engine actual fuel, for actually configuring the fuel. You actually see the buttons down here, the information down here, so actually switch different versions. Right now we don't have that. Okay, so we have here, let's get rid of the engine config there, let's get rid of this avionics. So we can spend 54 funds to get 121.6 data. So right now we've got no points at all. It's 460 seconds is MTBF. That's manufactured testing before fail. So that's ultimate how long that engine will last for ultimately. As in before it destroys it, basically before it is destroyed. Before it becomes completely and utterly inoperable. So you can hire a team and it will actually increase in a single day. It'll increase the reliability, so you're less likely to have a flame out. Now because I have Dangit installed on top of test flight, as I said at the opening to this series, it can increase difficulty a lot because it makes no difference what test flight says. It just reduces how many times or how often you'll get a failure from test flight, but not Dangit. Dangit is just basically a manufacturing flaw or defect simulation. This is just the reliability of the actual technology itself. Some technology which is new could be unreliable, but it could still not technically fail. It could just be a problem with the fact it's just new technology. Whereas Dangit will actually emulate or simulate as best it can manufacturing flaws or defects during the manufacturing process, not necessarily bad technology. Okay, that's the basics. So I'm going to put together a very basic launcher just to reach 120 kilometers. So first of all, we're to pick. We're not going to pick one of these avionics these procedural packs. So it's 1 ton. Don't think we lift 1 ton yet. Not quite. So we need a basic sounding rocket telemetry unit. We could use the ROBCU telemetry unit as well, but they're a little bit. Could basically use either. You know, a basic sort of. There's no control in them. Just take a look. He's getting in my way again. Let me put this over here for a second. So electric charge is 90 watts. That's how much it's using. That's quite a lot. And it's only got 180. If I can gather, I believe it's 12 electric charge equals to about 0.2 watts, I think it is, something like that. I can't remember exactly. I have to take a look at that. But it's not a fantastic amount of electric charge. Let's take a look at this one. Exactly the same. This uses 100 watts. So that is, right, I know exactly how much it is now. So basically that is I believe it's 0.01 electric charge usage. So 100 watts. So that will last quite a long time. I've done that from memory, from testing. So this one will probably last even longer. If it actually lets me take hold of it. There we go. So this is 10 watts less. So this uses 100. So that's 100 watts. It has an RT remote tech antenna, a passive one. So it's always on, and it's 200 kilometers. This one, that's only 150. So omni power is 0. Once it's powered, it's 150. So it's not passive. It requires 0.01 a second. So it's got science experiment, but it's only got telemetry. So it'll only send back data from its own flight path. And this is part of Dangit. So, yeah. I'm going to choose this one because it's what I always choose for some reason. I don't know why. The other one's probably 10 watts less, like I said. But, we'll use this one. I'm going to turn off MechJeb. There's no point leaving MechJeb on because there's no MechJeb modules in RP0, Korea and Tech Tree. There is no modules unlocked yet. You have to unlock those, such as the Ascent profile and all the other stuff, Translatron and all the other MechJeb sections. So I'm going to take procedural tank. So it's only just going to be a sounding rocket. Bring utilization up to full, so it uses the entire volume that's available to it. I'm going to put rigid attachment on as well. So fuselage. Now, the actual ARB engines, the Sandrock engines, are pressure fed. So that means you have to have a highly pressurized tank. Now, at first you've only got fuselage and structural. Later on you have balloon, You have cryogenic and all sorts of other types of tanks, and also service module. You can choose either fuselage or service module for these highly pressurized motors. But fuselage is actually lighter, it's just a pressurized tube. Whereas the service module contains lots of different tanks inside it. So, yeah, it's actually lighter and more efficient just to use a fuselage tube. It's just a fuselage, just a pressurized tube, like I said. So I'm going to pop this onto, yep. If it lets me. Use plain white just for now. So I'm going to bring the diameter down. Just by this gadget just here. You bring it down just to match the diameter of the telemetry unit. I'm going to leave the length for now as it is. Just have to figure out how much fuel we can actually use. And exactly how much burn time the actual engine has that we choose to use. Okay, so I'm going to use, that's one ignition. As it says here, it's pressure fed. Unthrottleable, which means it's either full throttle or it's off. 7.628 kilonewtons in the vacuum and 6.672 kilonewtons at the pad at sea level. So it uses aniline, fufenol and RFNA. XASR is an alternate motor configuration version, which you don't have the technology to unlock it, and the AJ10-27 is the AeroB's hypergolic motor. Although the AJ10 was actually converted to use all sorts of different fuels, including kerosene and liquid oxygen. So we've got test flight. I've already showed you all of this. We've got test flight. So this will burn 102.5 seconds. This is rated burn time, and that is 65 seconds. So when you light a motor up, it's not just going to run forever until the fuel runs out. The motor will actually burn, so it will overheat. Basically, the heat will actually burn through and completely render the motor. In fact, it could actually explode. A lot of hypergolic engines don't actually have a limit on burn time. As far as ignitions are concerned, they actually just go on forever until they actually blow up. And that's simply because hypergolics use nitric acid or some other form of acid to form the ignition. They have no actual ignition hardware. There's no spark, in other words, there's no igniters. But they have a limit on their lifetime. Which means actually nitric acid, or whatever acid they're using, will actually burn through the pipework and cause the motor to cut out, or even exactly what I said, blow up. I'm going to bring this down. This is how you select different shapes. So you've got cone, cylinder, what have you just shown you, and you have smooth cone. So I'm going to use a smooth cone. I'm going to make the top part down to nil, so we get an actual point there, and bring the bottom down so it matches. I'm going to bring the length down a little bit, not much, just a little bit. So we'll leave it on fuselage because I want it to be highly pressurised. Rigid attachment is on. Or something else as well, if you use decouplers between stages, you may have to turn on fuel crossfeed. But this doesn't have anything like that. Don't think it actually stops you from doing anything. No, there's nothing. If it actually won't let you to let fuel go on through it, or allow these two parts to be joined some way, shape or form, it'll actually tell you no fuel crossfeed here. Let me see if I can actually find something that actually tells you that. So here's coupling. Okay, there we go. So there we have this particular custom decoupler from SSTU. There's no fuel crossfeed. Others will be off by default, but they'll still allow you to enable crossfeed. Okay, so there we go. TR2V stack decoupler crossfeed toggles in editor and flight default is off, so you can actually turn the crossfeed on with that. That's just a little bit of information for you. Okay, now if we go to the motor, push the middle mouse button, exactly what it says, click mouse button 2, which is the middle mouse button. If you have a mouse wheel, the wheel in the middle of the 2 left and right key, left and right buttons, your mouse buttons, push it down, it'll open up. So we see here LB core active part, reading the left hand window, sorry. So it's LB core, active part WSC core, but flight data is absolutely not. We haven't flown it at all, so we've got no R&D to actually gain from anything that we put in. So if we open up test flight right now, we've got no points. We can still spend money to get points. Right now we don't have any flight data to actually spend anyway, so our base reliability, current reliability is 357.14 seconds MTBF. That's ultimately manufactured test before fail. So that's how long you can have this motor hanging around in flight mode before it actually starts to fail. So maximum reliability is 714.29 seconds. Engine cycle there is rated burn time of only 50 seconds. So this motor will only go for 50 seconds before you're starting to push it. And it could either cut out, at which point you're carrying too much fuel into space because it hasn't burnt the fuel. So that will reduce your delta V. But the other thing is, as I said before, it could blow up. So it's a risk. So on the right hand side, you see the MOB cost is only 10 credits. The mass is 8 kilos. The thrust we've already seen, ISP we've already seen. So ISP is 191 at sea level and 218.4 in a vacuum. So the propellants are on the line, 32.68%. Fuel is 8.17%, and RFNA-3 is 59.15%. So it uses 3 chemicals. I can't see any data when it comes to, there we go. So I have 1 ignition. Some motors have no ignitions at all, which means they have to be clamp lit, which means that the actual clamp itself has to ignite the motor. The motor has no ability to light itself. That isn't the case with this. I'll just turn the shroud off. So click on R&D. So we've got 4,000, so we're actually buying 4,000 points of flight data. The engine is right here. We have no other configs to choose from. The current config is WAC Corporal, and it will flame out 10% under the requirement remaining. So once it gets to 10%, it will cut out. Okay, so what we're going to do, what you do, once you've attached the motor from not just a procedural tank, but any tank at all with the motor attached to it, you can right click. I'll actually tell you at the bottom here, 32.688. It gets a little bit more difficult when it comes to selecting what fuel, if you have multiple engines through multiple stages. So you'll have a different selection of fuel under here for each stage. But right now I've only got one motor, so we'll select this one, 32.683% on the line, which matches what the motor actually says. You know, it's 32.68, so that's fine. So now we have some data up here. So right now the entire mass of the craft with the full tank there is 177 kilos. Most of that is fuel. So it gives you the ISP, but not at sea level. In order to get sea level information, you need to click on atmosphere. Then it'll tell you the actual ISP at the sea level. So it's 191 ISP, 6.672 thrust, torque is 0 and newtons per meter. Thrust to weight ratio is 3.83, so it's lifting 3.83 times its own weight with the launcher attached. So that's pretty powerful. Most launches nowadays are between 1.1 and 1.2 on the actual launch pad. Going any higher than that, pretty much wasting delta V, wasting energy. But back here, when it comes to experimental rocketry, they didn't know things like that. And they have no way of sort of throttling the engine, because none of these early engines are throttleable. They're all non-throttleable, which means they're full on or off. So I'll put this straight back. So if you say in atmosphere, we have 1541 meters per second delta V over 27.9 second burn time. If we go back into a vacuum, it goes to 4.38 thrust to weight ratio, 218.4 ISP, and the delta V has gone to 762 meters per second. It doesn't affect the burn time of the motor, obviously. So we need to extend this motor, the tank that the motor's attached to, so we actually fill the 50 seconds. Otherwise we're just not really sort of getting anything. But we do have a fuel tank which is empty, which is a nose cone. Now you either fill it with fuel, or you can put lead ballast or some other form of material in there. So I'm going to put fuel in it. There we go, it's 55. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to change that to black, so I can, that should do. Go to, yeah, we'll leave it charcoal. Okay, so you can actually you can obviously modify how much fuel you can hold without to mess around with anything else, just by manipulating the utilisation. So we can have it about 50%. But obviously when you do that, that means that the fuel will be splashing around inside here. So it's not such a good idea to use this for fuel. It's much better to use something that's not going to be depleted as the motor burns the fuel. In this stage, it could become destabilised and it could completely flip, because the fuel starts to move around in the tank as it gets used up, which is pretty obvious. Like a half full bottle of water. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to remove the tank. Now the other way that you can actually stabilise without having to put fuel here, as I said, it's a bad idea because it can move around in the tank as it's being used up. So you click on Show UI. What I want to do, I want to put about a kilo's worth or so of lead ballast. So there's lead ballast. Right now you have to click Add. So that's going to bring down, yeah, it's going to weigh quite a lot. So right now it's 326 kilos. We still have a thrust to weight capacity of 1.37 of lift, but we can't really sort of do that to the motor. That's just silly. So I want, so that's just sort of give it a little bit of mass to the actual nose cone. So that is one. So it's 12.52 kilos we're lifting of lead ballast. It's quite a lot of weight. It's actually 3.85. It's actually knocked off, well, 0.8, almost a full point of TWR there. But it is necessary, and that's the problem. It is necessary, or you're going to get a destabilising rocket and it's just going to flip. So it's going to hide this. So I could put this to structural, but then again it wouldn't be a tank. So if I put this to structural, then doing exactly what I just did then. So we've got lead ballast. I'll put lead ballast back in. It should be enough. If it's not, it doesn't matter. You just do it again. There's no time limits on the actual first sort of contracts that you get. Okay, so now it's 12.45 kilos. It's a structural nose cone as opposed to a actual fuel tank. Well, they could still put fuel tanks in there, which is a bit weird, but never mind. There is actually procedural nose cones in the aerodynamics tab. I believe there should be. There's one. But if you choose that, you can't fill it at all with anything. It'll just be an empty cone, empty nose cone. So that wouldn't really work too cleverly. Okay, so we've got lid ballast here of 11 kilos. And the nose cone's material itself weighs 1. So that's 13 kilos altogether. Okay, so we're going to extend this tank until we reach 50 seconds here. There we go. 50.2. That's not too bad. That's not too far over. Okay, so we need a clamp. So go to structural tab. And we will attach this to the underside of the craft. Now it takes a little bit of messing around this. It takes quite a lot of messing around actually. As I said, I'm just doing this just to show people just the basics of how to actually play Realism Overhaul. There's different sort of, it's quite a lot to take in at once and it can be quite daunting for people. So our thrust to weight ratio has gone up to 2.82, which is fine. But our delta V has gone up to 2,251. But this is as if we're launching in a vacuum. If we always flew in the, we don't always fly in the atmosphere, but we also don't take off while we're in a vacuum either. So you have to take this as a sort of best sort of guesstimate. But if we increase altitude, so it reaches about peak, that's about 10 kilometers. Yeah, so it's about 10 kilometers. Obviously it goes a little bit higher as you go higher and higher. The ISP itself will increase so as we get closer and closer to an actual vacuum. But the actual real sort of jump comes at about 10 kilometers. So it reaches roughly, I won't say it's peak performance, but it's optimal performance. About 10 kilometers. That should be okay. That should be fine. So obviously avionics warning here. We have no sort of control authority over anything because this does not have any controls at all. It's just a straight telemetry unit with a power supply attached. Okay, so we need to use the tool. This is the offset tool or tool move. Then we select smooth mode down here till the circle appears. Then it's a little bit tricky. You have to left click on the clamp. Sometimes it can be rather difficult and doesn't actually want to give you those arrows. So we click on the green arrow, move it down. So we just don't want this motor to be interfered with, because sometimes the KSP's physics can kick in. It'd be a bit weird with your launcher. So make sure there's a little bit of a gap. Not much of a gap, just a tiny little bit. That's enough. So we move it back. You don't really need to do this because it's just aesthetics, but it looks better. Just move it a little bit over here. Okay, so now what we need to do, we need to push over the launcher and the clamp itself. We don't want to go, if we go straight up when you have an engine failure, it's a bad idea to have it going vertically straight up. If it has an engine failure, it can fall back down. If you talk about a larger launcher, like a big rocket, much bigger than this, if it falls back down to the launch pad, it can actually destroy or damage the launch pad. So we don't really want that. Also, it's better to have a trajectory, because it allows you to become more effective, more efficient. The engine actually becomes more efficient the higher it goes. But you also need to put some energy into translation. That just means pushing along rather than straight up. That's just for achieving orbit. That's just the best practice because of the curvature of the Earth as well. So I'm just going to, it's just a tiny little bit, a bit more. There we go. Might be a little bit too much. That should be just fine. So I'll put these back to default setting. So I've got 50.2 seconds worth of burn. Now, one important little thing you need to realise when you're playing Realism Overhaul, it does come with Ferrum Aerospace installed. Now, a lot of people will be a bit sort of put off by that. It's not too difficult to actually design something that will actually fly in Ferrum. It's just a little bit different when it comes to KSP stock aerodynamics. What I'm going to put some fins on the first stage, the only stage actually. This is just to stabilise this lower stage where the motor is. There's no gimballing, this is just a straight rocket, just like a firecracker basically, large firecracker that I lit off at a fireworks display. I want this to put rigid attachment on, and bring the scale down. The one important thing you have to realise, when using tweak scale with arrow, real fuels already reduces the mass of parts, so you have to be careful not to push your parts when using tweak scale to shrink the actual part down. You have to make sure that you're not going to push it down into 0 or negative mass. So if that's 18 kilos, that's fine. So we're going to go down to that. So this is 1 kilo. So at 10% it's still at 1 kilo. So that's not bad. That's fine. So I want to come up to about 20%. There we go. So that's 3 kilos. So 4 of these is going to increase the weight of the launcher by quite a lot. So I'm going to tap in here. This is symmetry. This is how many I want to attach. Let's attach those up. A tiny little bit of an overlap. Well, just a little bit of an overhang, I should say, over the bottom of the tube there. Okay, so that will have brought out the delta V's come down from 2000 such. We are carrying 12 kilos extra now. So that's about 2000 delta V, but that's in a vacuum. Like I said, it's best of, it's 1836 in actual atmosphere. So it's a mixture of the two. You have to sort of just see how much we actually really get. Right, I'm just going to call this, it's just a sounding rocket, so we'll call it the S1. As we revise it, maybe increase the burn time because we're doing actually R&D on this motor. Yes, we should be. Yes, we are. So as that engine becomes more and more reliable, and we can switch to other engine configs as well, we'll actually revise this title. Could be S1A, B, C, D and so on. Then we go to the next version of the entire launch, it'll become the S2. But S for sounding rocket and 1 for, well, the first version. Okay, so that is roughly about, this is just the basics of how to actually put a rocket together in Realism Overhaul. Very basic. I won't be doing these build videos very much. Not for each, I will sort of, as I develop more launches, then yeah, I will show the new launch. But once the launch is actually set and it flies and it delivers a payload it's supposed to, wherever it's supposed to go, then I won't be showing those. Okay, well, I think that's about it. We've got, I believe it's 200. I believe it's 200 kilometers for this part. Sounding rocket, telemetry unit. Yeah, I believe it was. Either one was 150k. Yeah, so this one was 200. Yeah, there we go. Integrated always, and it's always on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now also over here you have cable construction time. Right now we've not actually put any investment in that. In the actual VAB. We haven't upgraded the VAB, we don't have enough money. But it's going to take 61 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes and 39 seconds to build this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to click build. So that's going to take exactly what it just said there, repeated there again. So it's 0%. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you how to actually reduce that down. So cable construction time has upgrade points. So you spend money to get upgrade points, but you can also get awarded upgrade points as you gain reputation. People want to come and work for you, basically. Now you have the R&D section. Then you have the VAB section. The VAB and spaceplane hangar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you very quickly. Let me just put this back to default. I'm going to just show you very quickly how to actually use or understand how cable construction time actually works. Okay, so we are back at the Space Center overview. I'm going to just click on KCT's actual icon down here. So as you can see, we've got S1, which is next. VAB is being built in. 61 days, exactly what we just said. So right now, nothing else is being done. So here's the upgrade section. So we have 16 points to spend. All these points represent people, represent Kerbals, technicians and scientists and people like that. So these are basically almost rather like the astronaut complex here, where you actually hire new crew, new personnel. This is basically the same thing, but you hire these. You can either hire them by spending funds, which point you buy points. So each one of these points represents a technical team. So you can spend them either in the VAB, on build points, on the actual space plane hangar, and the R&D building. Okay, so I'm going to spend enough points to get to about 0.8, 0.85 build points in the VAB. That will then accelerate that build time for the sounding rocket. It's about 0.8. I believe I can get about 0.8. There we go. So that's 0.8. I've still got 2 technical teams I haven't actually assigned work to, or department to. So now we brought the S1 down to 7 days, 16 hours, 30 seconds. 7 days, 16 hours, 30 minutes and 0 seconds almost. Mark there, 0 seconds. So we could put more points in. We could buy more people. I'm going to put the spare 2 points in the R&D section. That's just so the R&D, unlike stock, takes time to unlock each node. So the more personnel you have working in the R&D section, the tech section here, more people you have there, the quicker the tech nodes actually unlock. You still have to buy the tech node itself and then buy the individual parts in the VAB, because scientists still need to be paid. So that represents their wages for the R&D that they've done, for the work they've actually done for you. So that's basically cable construction time. Cable construction time does not come with anything else. It used to come with things like stage recovery and scrapyard, where you used to keep an actual tag, an inventory of your recovered parts so you could reuse them. I've got scrapyard and I also have stage recovery installed, but they are now separately available from cable construction time. So that's basically the cable construction time basics. If you actually start playing it, you can actually use cable construction time, stage recovery, and scrapyard in stock as well. So you can actually get used to using that, recovering stage parts, like fitting a parachute onto an SRB or a stack of SRBs that you use. If you use 4 or more SRBs, put a parachute on them, you can recover them. But you have to set the parachute up. But yeah, you can actually get used to actually playing it with stock. You don't have to actually play it Realism Overhaul to get cable construction time working. Okay, so that's about it, the basics. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end this video at this point. I'm actually going to start my actual career mode in the next video. This is just, as I said, this is just a preliminary video just to show how to actually put a rocket together. Very basic, I know, but some people will probably not really like the idea of rail fuels. I know a lot of people actually post in the forums that they're a bit daunted by Realism Overhaul and rail fuels and everything else. But it's not that easy. It's not too easy to get the learning curve is quite steep. But once you get into it, it's actually quite good. Really good. Give you a much better gear than stock. Much better. Okay, so if you like this video, click like, share, and subscribe to follow the rest of my playthrough of KSP with Realism Overhaul and Real Solar System in RP0 Korea. Okay, thank you for watching. And the next video up will be when I actually roll this out and launch my first rocket in this playthrough, Reach for the Stars. Okay, once again, thank you for watching and take care. Bye bye.